I welcome you on our interview with one of the most interesting and well-recognized experts in customer service and telecommunications, Mailiis Ploomann. Hi, Mailiis. I'm very glad to see you here today.
Hello, nice to be here.
Can you tell us how did you start your journey with Elisa?
Oh well, my journey with it is actually started more than 10 years ago, more than 11 years ago. I think it was during the past economic recession actually. That's why I remember quite clearly. I came to Elisa to be a product manager. I actually was a product manager for I think like 3 or 4 years or something like that. Love the job. Still think that being a product management or being a product manager actually is one of the greatest jobs you can actually have. And then moving on from there, at one point started being the head of product management and now the head of Telecom Services. So sort of like a natural evolution in a way, in that sense. But yeah, telco has been something that has been like a huge part of my life for quite a long time.
But do you agree that customer experience is one of the most important thing in the long run success of a customer service company? Why do you think so?
Oh, well, this is a philosophical question. I think the most important part probably is that everything just works. I mean, technically, because what you're paying for a telco is actually for you to be able to, I don't know, entertain yourself or work or do whatever is necessary for you to do. But customer experience, it has to be point on in the places where you might need customer service. Huge part of what you think of a service provider, it actually depends on the quality of the network and how well that works. And then there is this touch points or these small things, small situations where you actually need some help or you need something to be done. And then I think it's crucial that everything is handled smoothly, quickly, most convenient way for you as a customer. So yeah, I would say that it is.
But what is the most important thing in customer service at Elisa?
I think that when we think about our customers and when we think about the things that matter to the customer and when we think about telecom services, whichever company, then I think the most important part would be that you would be there for your customer at the exact moment when the customer needs a solution to their problem or wants to buy something or I don't know, wants to check something or whatever question or whatever problem they might have. But it's not that simple. In that equation, you would still have like some other components. You have to do it cost efficiently. You have to do it sustainably in the meaning of when we're moving on in time, I think we should be less and less dependable on human labor, human workforce, not because there's something wrong with it. I think that in the future it will not be cost efficient, it will not be sustainable, it will not be something that you can answer customer demand with. And I think that's the main reason we have chosen to automate customer service. I don't think it's the main reason today. I think it will be in the future.
But do you know how many customer inquiries or incoming contacts per month you have in customer service?
The monthly rate it varies a bit on the month of the year, but it would be like 100,000 to 150,000, somewhere between that, all incoming contacts altogether in our channels, but something like that.
What are the reasons that you have different numbers in different periods? Like, what are the causes for that?
Well, the number of the days in month are different. It depends a bit on what we are doing. Sometimes we are doing something that would sort of induce customer contacts. Sometimes we need to do those things. Sometimes we do something good, so customer inquiries go up. But yeah, it varies a bit. Sometimes it's our fault. Sometimes something happens because it's a technology company and something always happens. So
sure.
Yeah.
Sure. But you mentioned that you have so many customer contacts per month, but how many people you need to handle this amount?
Well, the average equation would be that one person should be able to handle 1,000 customer contacts per month. So that would be the equation on a large scale. There are departments that require more, like more time to handle one contact because some of the contacts are more complicated than the others. Some of them are more easier than the others. Roughly the numbers, when we take into account both inbound and outbound, we have more than 500 people.
Oh, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
But what are the biggest problems when it comes to such a huge number of contacts and like amount of people that you need to control? What are the biggest challenges?
Challenges with human labor, human workforce, or challenges with customer service in general?
Let's divide these two questions.
Okay. Okay, when we think about human beings are emotional. Human beings, they don't actually like repetitive tasks. Human beings usually want to do something that would be, I don't know, a job that would be creative. And from the other side, when you take our situation, we need people who would be bilingual. You would need to be able to service customers in both Estonian and Russian. English is coming up rather quickly as well. So you would need 2+1 languages. You don't find that many people around here who would be also a bit technically savvy. I mean, you don't have to be like a fan of technology, but you shouldn't be afraid of technology at least. So when you think this cocktail of different aspects of human beings, you don't have that many options to choose from. And to be that lucky that you would have, like I said, like 500 people who would be would tick every box and still would want to come to work for us and do it, I don't know, 2 or 3 years in a row. That's just something that really doesn't add up.
Yeah.
Not anymore. I mean, we would probably be really well off if we could manage with 200 people, maximum 300 maybe. So that's the goal for us. To be able to service our customers with the same amount of contacts coming in, because it's okay that the contacts are coming in, but with fewer people. And the people would be handling the contacts that would be, like I said, more complicated, would require more creative thinking, would be more like, I don't know, something that a human being actually is good at and should do. And this is something that should be left for human agents. But automation should handle all the rest. Automation should do everything the customer needs to be done, but it would do it pre-programmed way and do it in a way that it's instant and it's sufficient and it can do it, I don't know, 1,000 times per second basically.
So you mean that basically you would like to have less people because it's like time consuming even to prepare such people. Like one thing is that there are not enough people or bilingual, but like training people, it's also like time consuming and costly probably.
Well, it depends. Let's say that in a fantasy world where you would have I don't know, tens of thousands of people who would want to do this job and who would want to be a customer service agent and would want to do this job for, I don't know, 5 years or 10 years in a row, it wouldn't be a problem. But the reality is that in the mind of especially the young people, they love doing this work, they love doing this job, but not more than maximum 1 year. Well, actually the maximum of 2 years, and then they want to move on, and then they want to experience something more, and they see this customer service job like an entry-level job into the technology world, the place where they can, I don't know, learn a lot about what a customer service is, what a network is, and how it all works. If it happens that we end up with a bunch of people who actually find out that no, they don't like this job and this is not something for them, not their cup of tea, then it might happen that we need to retrain people like after 4 months time, 6 months time, 9 months time, and that's a problem because it takes time, it takes energy, and the level of customer service that you would get, the quality of the customer service is not that good when you happen to end up with a customer service agent who just really doesn't want to do that specific type of job. So the cost actually comes from different places. It could be the amount of time you spend on training, it could be the amount of time that you actually spend redoing someone else's work who just didn't want to do the job.
So you mentioned that staff turnover is one of the obstacles when you need to deal with such a big group of agents, right?
That's true.
So basically, we can define that it's one of the biggest problems in customer service in general when it comes to deal with such a big number of inquiries, or there are other big problems to mention as well.
Well, you can always find bigger problems, big problems and bigger problems, but I think, yeah, the turnover rate is something that has many managers worried. And definitely for the reason that there is a certain level of expertise a customer is expecting, especially when it comes to technology. And the technology is getting more complicated year by year. It doesn't even matter if you have only, I don't know, fixed services or only mobile services. The technology is getting more and more complicated year by year, and the customer really doesn't need to have the knowledge to operate their own devices, let alone their own services. So the level of expertise has to rise when it comes to customer service agent. And again, yeah, like you said before, that the period, the time that you need to actually train the customer service agent for that, and if they switch the jobs internally, or well, sometimes leaving the company, that is a problem, definitely. I do agree with that.
In several interviews, you mentioned that the biggest problems in customer service came 2 years ago when you merged with Starman. So the abandoned call rate was 65%, and you had to do something. You had to change the situation. So that was one of the reasons why you wanted to implement some innovations in Elisa.
Yeah, that was kind of true. That was a really bad time for us. I think merging two companies, it doesn't even matter if they're, I don't know, one of the biggest companies in the country or not. Merging two companies, two cultures, that's never easy. I think that looking back, that we had it fairly easy, but it was a rough journey for us, and especially in the customer service. Because the situation for us was that we didn't have overlapping competencies. That means that everyone had to learn a new set of skills and to sort of put it on top of the knowledge or the skills they already had. And of course, two different cultures, etc., etc. So yeah, we were in a quite bad place. Like you said, it was, I think it was February or March, flu season, and we had constantly like two full teams of people missing. And if you have like 100,000 or up to 150,000 contacts coming in, and you have two full teams of people constantly missing, then it's not a nice situation to be in. I mean, you're answering emails from, I don't know, 2 weeks back, and you have, like you said, abandoned call rate would be like 60% in our case, which means that people keep on calling because they still want to get online. And that was the situation where we actually decided that we will find a way out of this situation, but the way we should build our customer service from now on should be future-proof and should not rely on, like I said, human workforce, should be something like a few steps further. So whenever we hit another rough patch, well, like we did in 2020 actually, during the Corona crisis, then we should be ready. And we should have something that would help us during these times where everything else falls apart, basically. So yeah, that was the place where we decided to start automating customer service.
But did you consider other alternatives? Because sometimes telecommunication companies, they simply build a new customer contact center. Did you consider that before implementing innovations?
Well, it was 2017. No one actually knew what automating customer service actually meant. Everyone was, well, not everyone was experimenting, but the few who were experimenting, they were just experimenting. No one actually knew what the future would look like because no one did anything back then. So it would be honest to say that back in 2017, we knew that we're gonna build something huge, but even I was not able to actually point that we're gonna build that or we're gonna do that. We just sort of started moving and just started to look where the journey will take us. And well, it took us here basically. But sure, we had, I don't know, several probably Excel sheets full of different scenarios what we can do. But it was clear from, I think, well, not from day one, but let's say day 20 probably, that human workforce, like I said, that's not the answer. You can't just put more of the same problem on top of the pile and then expect for a different result at the end of the day. So that was like the first philosophical decision, that we need to build something that would not rely that much on the workforce of human beings, but would be future-proof in some other way. But no, we didn't know what the answer would look like, or the situation today would look like. And I definitely don't know what the future, I don't know, let's say 5 years from now will look like. But that's always the same in telecom industry. That's just the way it is.
You mentioned that, this when you merged with Starman, there was increase in the customer contacts. That's quite logical. But other reasons for just big increase, sudden increase in customer contacts, like for example, maybe introducing new products or such situations.
Well, back in 2017, several things happened. There were a few decisions that were made outside from our company. For instance, let's say the national television was not provided through the same sequences back then. This was a huge project, which meant that 80,000 people had to choose a television operator for them to continue watching some of the channels. There were a couple of changing in the TV service that Starman had actually, or the cable operator we were merging with. They had it planned, like a few years back, had it planned, but then it sort of came live at the same year when we were merging. So yeah, a couple of things were happening at the same time, but I think the biggest impact was the fact that we were merging two cultures together. So I think that everything else could have been handled. Everything else was just technical work, or just, I don't know, work you can just manage. But managing or putting together two different cultures, that's completely different story.
Yeah, but this is I understood that already. But I mean, for instance, you mentioned that this year there was a corona crisis, right? So you had to close.
I think everybody noticed, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm just curious, whether there are other corporate reasons for companies to think about introducing innovation. Maybe looking into long-term perspective. Okay, maybe you don't have any problems right now, but maybe tomorrow you'll have new situations, and you have to adopt. But for instance, I don't know, if you make some changes in the product, right? You need to change, let's say, the manuals, and people who are working the customer service, they read these manuals. So do you think that if you bring innovations, this process of changing the information that you're providing to your customers will be more efficient?
Well, that's not a new problem. This is a problem that companies that have customer service have had since day one. Well, not day one, day three, let's say. On day one, you provide the information, you train your staff, everything is perfect because everyone knows the information that is correct. Let's say on day three, something changes. Now, there's always a group of people who will always answer the customer questions just by heart, just because it was correct two days ago. You always have this 10% of people who just came to the office yesterday and they don't know yet. You always have this 10% of your customer service who already know that they're leaving, which means that they don't care. And they just answer something just to get rid of the customer contact. So this is something that is happening constantly, absolutely every single company. Looking from the product management point of view, usually, things go wrong, not because the procedures or the products have not been thought through by the product managers or the product owners or whatever they're called, but because the information that is the way it should be, the information never gets to the customer. And the customer gets someone's interpretation of an information that maybe at some point of time was correct, but it's not correct anymore. And then things start going wrong. But this is a problem that has existed, like I said, from day 3 in every single company. In the future, what's going to be different is that customer service or the expectations for the customer journey, let's call it customer journey, the expectations are not shaped by traditional companies, not by telecom operators, I don't know, not even restaurants and hotels or whatever. They are shaped by Facebook, by Google, by Amazon, which means that expectations for customer service are, let's say, inhuman, because you have a question, you want to get an answer right now, this instant. Because if you YouTube something, if you Google something, you get the answer immediately. And this is the way customers are experiencing digital services, and this is the way they want to experience your services as well. And that's what's shaping the future, that's what's creating the expectations, and you have to meet those expectations, because your competitors are not competitors when it comes to customer service. Digital global companies are, basically, and that's what's different today, and that's what's going to be different tomorrow and years to come as well.
So basically these are the good reasons for thinking about innovations.
I think that if you don't think about those things already today, you're kind of left behind, because you're well, when you look at the reach of the digital huge companies, when you look at the global reach of people that they're providing service to, most of your customers have had their customer experience, which means at one point in time they will start comparing it, and at one point in time you will start disappointing your customers just because you're not Google, just because you're not Amazon. And the irony in that sentence is that neither Google nor Facebook nor Amazon actually they don't have customer service per se. Usually customers are quite left alone there, but the experience with the digital service is I don't know, so immediate that it sort of lingers in your customer's head. So that's there. There's nothing you can do to change that. And if you want to keep up, if you want to be sort of in the competition when it comes to customer experience, if you want your customer to actually willingly pay you money in the future as well, not Google, not Facebook, but you have to do something. You have to be there for them.
Sure. So the first, one of the biggest innovations that you introduced in the customer service is the chatbot Annika.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think that companies need to make any preparations before they proceed to any innovations with AI, let's say?
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say that, the year is 2020 is ending now. 2021 is coming up. I think most of the people who are going to listen to this, it's 2021. That means that today we're not going to talk about if it's technically possible to automate customer service. If is not a question anymore. It is. The technology is there. It's ready to be used. Now the preparation should be more like strategical. I like to call it philosophical, but it's not philosophical, it's actually strategical. Why do you want to automate customer service? And a few steps back from that, why do you have customer service at all? Why do you have customer? Maybe you don't need customer service. Maybe it would be, I don't know, quicker and cheaper, and it would make more sense not to have customer service. If you are in a subscription business, in a relationship business, most probably you do need customer service. And then a few strategical decisions should be made. Who is most interested in the fact that you have customer service? Who benefits the most? And the customer is not the answer there. Of course, customer benefits if you have good customer service, but business-wise, who benefits business-wise? Who is responsible for bringing home the results that you get, business results from customer service? So I think strategically, you need to answer a couple of questions before starting to automate anything. Why do you need it? Who is responsible for it? Who benefits the most internally in your company for that? Why do you do it? And if you have answered those questions, most probably you will end up with a decision to make when you look at your, the way your company is built, which sort of departments you have, which sort of responsibilities you have in your different departments, because continuing to do the same old things, the same old way, and expecting different results in the future, that's just nonsense. That never happens. You have to do things differently, and you have to do them internally, not just buying another IT gadget, not just introducing some other technological, innovation that doesn't work, that will never bring value to your company. You have to do things differently internally. Decide who's going to be responsible for it, who's going to be the one making sure that whatever procedure you're automating actually works. And then, lining your company against that strategical decision. And I think that this is sort of the work you have to do before, or at least at the same time when you're moving on with the automation itself, technically. Because these are totally different things. To do something technically and to actually make them work business-wise.
The first thing that you introduced in customer service was chatbot Annika. When did you introduce that, and how happy are customers with it?
Well, the first introduction was 2017. How happy? We do measure Annika exactly the same way as we do our human agents. We measure transactional NPS. And up until today, basically, Annika's transactional NPS has been either higher or at the exact same level as human agents. So I would say that they're fairly happy. I think we're doing a great job in that department.
And what were the pitfalls when you implemented the chatbot? Because, for example, in 2018, you mentioned that chatbot Annika only automated 10% of the customer service. What's the current situation?
It's something that we knowingly move up gradually. It's not a technical issue. It's more an issue with the old legacy systems. We always put live only the dialogue flows where we're confident that the customer actually gets a solution out of it. So not just a quick question and a quick answer. That's never the target. The target is always to fully automate, to get the contact resolved within this first instance. When we started, we took 10% of all the contacts coming in. Today we're a bit more than 30, but not yet 40% of all the incoming contacts that we let the bot handle. It recognizes a lot more. I think it recognizes 75-76% of all the contacts, but we are not ready to implement those dialogue tree flows just yet. And out of all inbound, out of chats, it takes, if I take into account all the written contacts coming in from emails and chats, the majority, I think more than 60%, is actually handled by the bot. If I take into account all the incoming contacts in general, I think it's 40% of all the inbound, and I take into consideration absolutely every single channel that we have. I mean, among sales shops, contact customer service emails, everything coming in, it's 40%. So it's something that I'm quite proud of, actually. This has been a journey, and this has not been an easy one for us, because we were forced to do things differently internally in order to achieve all that.
Okay, so when you speak, when you say that 35%, not 40, but 30, let's say 35%, you mean that it absolutely resolves all the issues? It recognizes, and the customer goes through the flow with those, let's say 35, 36, 38%, it depends on the month a bit. It doesn't necessarily mean that the customer is happy with the results. So fully resolved are half of those, a bit more than half of those actually, but let's say half of those are fully resolved. And that's measured the same way as with human agents as well. We either ask the customer, was your issue resolved? And the customer says yes, or we measure whether you contact us again within the next 8 weeks. And if you don't, we say that this matter was resolved for you. How is Annika different from other chatbots?
When I think about Annika today, when we talk about Annika, we don't talk about chatbot anymore. I think that's the main difference. When we talk about Annika, Annika is more like automating the customer service. So different AI projects put together, different models, different applications working together in order to create the customer journey to be a smooth one, basically. So this is Annika today. But even when we started with the chatbot, initially already we created it a bit differently than all the other chatbots out there, because it's sort of my gut feeling that most of the chatbots still are built just to answer your question, to recognize the question, and then you give, I don't know, some sort of answer to you. Just an answer to get rid of you. I hate the even the measurement, or what they call it, the deflection rate. It's to get sort of, in my head, that means to get rid of the contact. This has never been the aim of Annika or all our models, what we have built. We've always, our goal has always been to automate the journey for the customer fully and to resolve the customer contact fully. So Annika never just gives you just a general answer or just, I don't know, link, just go read from there on your own. It always takes into account the full journey you have to go through in order for your question to be fully resolved. So it's philosophically different. It's seeking for solutions for the customer, never just the answers. And that means that a huge part of Annika is somewhere that is not visible for the customer, or anyone else basically outside our organization, and that's a good thing.
Do you think that great customer service avoids unnecessary customer contacts?
I think it's a bit dependent on the industry. Maybe you might have an industry where any single contact coming in might be really valuable to you. Not even sure what those would be. Probably you could find an industry as such. But when it comes to telcos and banks and I don't know, utility companies, whichever companies who have a lot of customers, who have I don't know, legacy IT systems, whichever systems you can think of, then I think usually customers just want to, mind their own business, do their own work, have their own entertainment. Everything should just work brilliantly in the background with no need for the customer to actually interact with the company. And that sort of brings you to the point where, yes, I would totally agree with you that if you want your customer really to be happy, you have to do everything in your power for your customer not to feel the need to contact you. All the contacts that are happening between you and your customer, they should be initiated by you as a company because you want to do something with your customer, not the other way around.
So to be more proactive and basically avoid a problem before people even understand that there is a problem.
Well, you can't avoid the problems because when you think about technology companies, you will always have problems. You will always have technical things that go wrong, and that's fine. But what you can avoid is you can avoid the contact from the customer. You can either solve the problem beforehand, have models predicting it or guiding you to the right solution really quickly. That's one thing. Or you can just communicate to the customer, like you said, proactively, because this is something that you can do, or automatically at the same moment that the customer gets this question or gets this problem. So yeah.
But do you think that your approach to the chatbot through product owners who are in the loop of creating these dialogue flows is the right way to handle this? Because in the long run, basically, if product owners understand what are the questions that are arising from the customers, they can improve the manuals, and basically by that, customers can find answers on their own. Do you think it's the right approach?
Well, obviously, I think it's the right approach. Like I said, it's a strategical decision. It's a strategical decision of why do you have customer service in the first place? Who benefits from it? In our case, it's a simple solution. The business side benefits from having customer service, business side benefits from customers being happy and having the longest possible relationship with your customers. It's beneficial for the product owner or product manager to be really connected with the customer on different angles. One of those would be, like you said, that you really get what the customer doesn't get. You listen to the questions and you try to create the answers. Another benefit is that when you realize what the questions are, you're not just trying to provide the answers. You can actually redesign the process or the product by itself because you realize it just doesn't work. Or you get some other valuable input to create, new services, new products, new offers, whatever you need, basically whatever your industry needs at this point. So yeah, I do believe in it, that you have to be really connected to the customer, and this is the only way you can actually be customer centric. Everything else is just a lie.
Do you think that customers will switch entirely to chatbots, or they will still continue calling companies?
That's actually a good question. I don't know. I think that no one does. I mean, you can force your customers to choose one channel. You just eliminate other channels. Would that be the preferred way in the future? I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that you will have certain types of interaction that would be better handled over the phone. You will have certain types of action that will be better handled over chat. I think it will depend on the reason for contacting. And the cool part will be that you can actually sort of guide your customers to the correct channel, to specifically this channel where you want to handle this contact. So I think no channel will be totally eliminated during, let's say, next 5 years, 10 years time, probably. I don't know, but I think it would be, well, you can just eliminate it by yourself, but I'm not sure it's the wisest choice you can make.
Actually, it's very interesting because, like, what I've heard, at least from the industry, is that depending on the market, the situation can be different. Like, for example, in Scandinavia, they say like 80% of the incoming inquiries are coming from the chatbot, versus, let's say, southern regions of Europe, where people still prefer to call. I don't know, maybe this is like the mentality issue, or
it could be a mentality issue. I mean, you would have different cultures, you would have different interactions, but I think you can always design sort of a channel guide for your customers. You can decide as a company into which channel you want to direct your customer with different questions, different topics. And I think you should never just look at the data or the interaction the way it is today, because it's dependent on how simple the company or how smooth the company has designed the journey today. If you ask the customers, how do you want to interact with companies in the future, you will pretty sure get an answer that I want a quicker horse. You will not get an answer that they actually want in the future, because they cannot imagine the future any different than it is today. It's just a flaw that we have as human beings. So I think it's more like a strategical decision for the companies to make, which contacts into which channel to which agents, either automated agents or human agents, they want to receive, and then start designing the customer journey based on that. Their own strategic decision, not the other way around. So I think today's statistics is mostly just a map showing how companies have built their customer service today, not the way that customers actually prefer it to be, because it doesn't work like that.
So basically, companies should build specific customer journeys, but listen to their customers.
Well, you should always adapt, you should always change, but you should have like this strategical map in your head. Like, I want this to happen this way, and of course you should test it before with your customers. You should never implement anything you haven't tested before. You have to do small, really quick, dirty pilot runs, or just fake it before, just to see how customers will react. But first you have to design it in your head, make like I said, the strategical decisions, and then things will start happening. And then you learn with your customer what actually works and what actually doesn't.
So besides automating customer service with the chatbot, you also started to automate the calls. Like, can you tell us how you do that and why you started to do that?
Well, we didn't start automating calls. We started using Annika in our call center. The sentence is the same, but the idea is a bit different. The problem that we had was, our journey began with two companies merging. I think that was the starting point for that as well. That means that we have close to 800 different topics where customers are calling us. And you can divide those things into some sort of categories and create teams that would be more knowledgeable about some topics and know a bit less about different topics. Yeah, and we ended up with I think it was 10 or 12 different sort of skill sets for our human agents. And the problem was that when a customer was calling, it was really important for the customer to end up with specifically this team that knows how to handle this specific question, because like I said, more than 800 different topics, different questions the customers can ask. It's not humanly possible to know all the answers to every single question that could come in. And usually the way customers, well, huge companies actually do it is for the customers to choose by themselves through an IVR system where they basically ask you to choose one if you want, I don't know, this topic, two if you want another topic, etc. And like I said, we wanted to divide the context between at first 10 different routes for us, 10 different topics. And the error rate for our customers when choosing the topic by themselves was 25 to 30%, because our IVR was just too complicated. More than 2 levels of choices you had to make. So customers just ended up pushing whatever buttons just to get to a human agent, which also meant for us that every third call had to be retransferred. So you end up with an agent, you tell the agent why you called, you describe your problem. They listen to you and say, okay, sorry, I'm going to transfer it to my colleague because this is not really my topic. And then you get transferred, and then you again explain why you called, again explain your problem. A lot of time spent. The customer experience not that good, as you can imagine, because you have to explain yourself at least 2 times in that scenario. So that's where Annika was brought to contact center. So what we did, we eliminated the IVR. So now you call, you just describe why you called us, and then a lot of classifiers come into action, and they understand, let's call it understand why you called, and then they route you to the correct team, and then the correct team takes it over. And the accuracy there is more than 90%, so a lot better result for us.
That's really interesting and great numbers, I would say. But do you think that specifically customer experience was the main reason for implementing that, or there were other business reasons for that as well?
Well, the business reason is if you have customers sort of just being on a carousel in your IVR or just getting retransferred between agents, you are wasting your agent's time as well. You have customers holding up your phone lines. You have customers just wasting your agent's time because they need to retransfer the call, and then that actually ends up with wasted time for customer service agents in general. So it was the customer journey, yes, of course, but mostly it was an internal decision, because if you think about, if you're a new employee coming to work for us, then like I said, 800 different topics. Where do you start? How do you start the training? It's so much more simple if we can give the knowledge to you through skill sets. This is your first 6 weeks. These are the topics that you should learn. These are the topics that you should prepare yourself for. And with 90% accuracy, we can transfer you only the calls that are coming in with this specific topic. Mm-hmm. And then you get another skill set and another one, and maybe, one agent has, I think, 4, the tops, not more. And they can choose between different days which skill sets or which skills they want to get, actually. And they have sales targets for those specific topics as well. So it is, I think it's more tilted towards internal decision and the internal need, but the customer is there on the picture as well.
So from one side, basically coming back to the topic that we discussed previously about the main problems in the customer service, you mentioned that there is you want to make the stuff more efficient, and because there is a high turnover of them, you need to prepare them. So basically assigning a specific skill sets to a specific crew of employees and using IVR improves that. Basically you try to solve the problem by trying to invest less time into preparing stuff for the work, and also it becomes more efficient, basically.
Well, not even improve, it makes it possible. Mm-hmm. Because it's improvement would be one thing, but just to make it possible that you can get new people and you can get them to look confident or sort of feel confident for the customer. Because the customers, they always want to talk to the most experienced staff member. That's by nature, and that's normal. Now, what you can do is you can take, let's say, someone who has worked for us maybe 4 weeks, 5 weeks, and make them look confident, because they have had those 4 weeks to get experience on that specific topic. And that's something that actually will build you up and gives you confidence as a customer service agent as well. So you appear more confident. So you fake it until you make it, basically. And that does help.
So basically less onboarding time and more efficient customer service, because a person feels more comfortable and confident, and he knows the topic well enough to. Yes. So true. But also another argument is that, but what do you think about this issue of abandoned call rates? Like, does this IVR helps to solve this problem?
Well, calls usually get abandoned when the waiting time before reaching an agent is too long. If you have customers stuck in your system, just retransferring from agent to an agent, you are keeping your lines busy, which means that people start abandoning the calls because the waiting time just gets too long. If you're efficient, if you distribute the contacts coming in between your agents and they get it right the first time, so no retransferals, that means you have more time to pick up the calls when the customer actually calls you. So yeah, it does help, and just because it just creates a more efficient pipeline, basically. Your pipe will be more efficient because just more customers will get through the correct way. So in that sense, yeah, it does help.
Mm-hmm. You also mentioned average handling time, but how was it increased or decreased? Like if you compare like before IVR and after.
Being stuck in the old IVR versus without the IVR, there's a 1 minute difference in our case. So like it takes you less than a minute to get from, Annika picking up the line for you to get transferred to an agent. And out of that minute, actually half a minute is for you to describe the problem. If you don't use the whole half minute, you can do it with less. But sometimes customers use the whole half minute. So half a minute is actually spent on you. You are spending it as a customer explaining to us why you're calling. So a minute saved per every call, that's quite a lot of time.
Yeah, basically, so meaning that with artificial intelligence or machine learning, how you like to call it, you save 1 minute per each call.
At least.
So basically, you mentioned that each team has some sales calls.
Yeah. Like you are assigned a set of skills. Like these are the calls that you will mostly get. And well, some of these might be, I don't know, just customer service type of calls. Like something has happened and so you have to just fix the problem for the customer. But sometimes there is a sales potential as well. I would say most of the times you can find the sales potential. If your customer is calling in, there is some potential for sales. But again, we have a lot of products. We have, 50 different products. And assigning sales targets for 50 products does not make sense. No one achieves anything like that. So it works the way that you have this skill designed or assigned to you today. These are the calls you're getting in. And you have a sales target that actually matches the skill set that you have. And we do measure you by that because we know we're transferring those calls to you, out of which, 10% is expected to turn into sales, or sometimes 20, sometimes 30%. And you can't complain that, I had just different customers. No one wanted to buy anything. We know what type of customers we're transferring you. So it does create a better, interaction between the manager and the staff, basically, because they know the type of interaction that is going to happen beforehand, before the customers are calling in, which is a cool thing to do when we talk about inbound contact.
So just to sum up, Annika helps to make customer service more efficient because the onboarding is easier. People are better prepared as they have specific skills that they're preparing for. And it also helps to match the sales goals.
Exactly. So it makes the journey smoother for the customer. It makes your pipeline more efficient. And in a sense, it helps you to get the control over your inbound contacts, which is an extremely hard task to do otherwise, because you have control of the contacts and the agents where you transfer them to, and you can expect sales results from them as a result.
Like several months ago, you wrote an article about the way you use Annika. For example, it helps to detect network anomalies.
It does. That's another application for her. Well, she's answering all the calls, yeah? So people are calling in and they call us when something goes wrong. If something is not working the way it should be, people call us. Some of the times we know it beforehand that something is wrong, and then we detect that something is wrong, and we can actually play either, I don't know, automated response to them saying that we know it's our fault, we're fixing it and all that, but sometimes we don't. So what Annika does is actually we have created a live stream between Annika and our network monitoring center. So our network monitoring center actually sees on the map from where calls are coming in, if an anomaly is detected, if something appears to be wrong somewhere, like a green light, I don't know if it's yellow or green or red light appears and saying that something is wrong here. And the network monitoring specialists, they can actually check and see what the customers are saying, like what sort of words are they using, because in those situations where something goes so wrong, we haven't detected it in our other monitoring centers, the faults are specific. And sometimes what the customers are saying is extremely important, just to realize where to run, what to fix, what is happening and where. So yeah, Annika is working together with our monitoring center as well.
And this is very close to the idea that I mentioned before, that you try to be proactive and like avoid unnecessary context. So basically, does it mean that Annika helped to detect the problem and fix it before majority of the customers understand that it initially existed?
It depends. Sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes it takes a while for us to understand what is going wrong. But yeah, once we have realized what is going wrong or what has gone wrong or what are we doing, what can we do to fix it basically, then we can proactively fix it for the other customers. Up until we started using Annika for that, what happened was someone from network monitoring center actually realized something might be wrong, and then a transaction between customer service agents and the monitoring center started happening. So people were discussing whether something might look wrong or arguing with each other, not believing each other, and it could take hours before they actually ended up with the conclusion that, okay, something might be wrong here, and then start investigating it. Now you see as a fact, it's not an interpretation of the customer service agent that customers are saying that something might be wrong. You can actually see how many customers are calling with the exact same problem and where they're calling from one specific location, from all over the country. What's similar between those calls coming in, what's totally different between them. You can start analyzing the second anomaly is detected. So yeah, that's something you can't do otherwise.
Do you use any other AI technologies to improve the customer service or experience?
Well, since we needed a transcription model for Annika to work, to be able to understand, let's call it understanding, what customers are saying in order to route them, a fairly advanced transcription model was built for us. So now we are analyzing the calls. So we have written data about what the customers were actually saying, and we can analyze exactly what went on in the interaction between customer service agents and the customer. And again, this is a data that we didn't have previously, because we had, the customer service agent's interpretation of why the contact came in and what the customer wanted and what solved the problem, but not facts. Now we have facts. So that's another aspect or another domain that we are using.
So meaning that you developed speech recognition model for the Estonian language from scratch?
Not just Estonian language, but for phone calls. That was the hard part, because there were a lot of models that can handle, radio talk shows or even speeches or something like that, but nothing that could handle phone calls, which is a totally different area in that sense. So yeah, that was designed and built specifically for us.
Why do you think that some companies do not see any business value in AI technologies?
Why do companies do anything? I mean, a company is just a stupid number in a registry. Such companies do not think, people do. So if you have a certain set of people who think they know what to do, Well, no one can know for sure what's the correct thing to do to be successful in 5 years' time. You can have guesses. You can learn best practice from other companies. You can be inspired by other companies. What I believe is that the inspiration part is actually something that is lacking, because there are few success stories out there. But there are too few success stories out there. And it's so easy to go or choose the wrong track. I mean, let's say the same chatbot example. It's so easy to create a stupid chatbot that does nothing for you business wise. And then you just conclude that since you created a proof of concept with a chatbot that just understands what the customer is asking, and you just provide just a stupid simple answer, and no one cares and customers are not happy, you just conclude that chatbots don't work. It's not the chatbot that doesn't work, it's you behind the chatbot that doesn't work. You have to rethink the way you approach this technology. You can't think about it as an IT. You can't think about it as a computer program. You can't think about it as program it, because all those things are required. But you have to redesign the way you do business beforehand. And for that, you need inspiration. You need success stories. You need someone telling that it's okay to take this path. And I think AI technologies are in the sort of maturity curve, in the beginning of the maturity curve. Like, it's okay that there are few companies who are doing it. Half of them or even fewer of them are succeeding, but you should learn from those companies who are succeeding, because they are the ones who are building the actual future, and the future that is worth copying. So I think the situation is completely normal. It's the same with to every angle where you look at, but I think it's smart to look at the companies who are succeeding and to copy them with pride.
But if we get back to your example, do you feel that AI technologies have some business value at Elisa right now?
Well, we couldn't automate customer service without it. It's not doable. We have poured immense amounts of money into self-service, and we have, well, Estonia in general is a quite digital nation. People are used to doing, well, whatever digitally. That's not the question in our sense. We have run out of ways to use old IT. It just will not get you any further with old IT. Now, what the rest of the world basically can do is just skip a few steps. You don't have to, spend a lot of money trying to make your customers do something for themselves in the self-service. That doesn't work. Learn from us. It just doesn't work. You need AI products for that. So you can leave the customers being just customers, not knowing anything about your IT systems, your logics, your products, whatever, just with their questions as human beings. And then you can build something that would automate this flow for them. And that's something you can only do with AI products. So of course it's creating value for us. We just couldn't do it any other way.
Why were you looking for external partners when it came to data science? Why you didn't want to implement your own department?
Because it's a new technology, and it was extremely important for me to learn from other companies' mistakes, not just ours. And if you choose someone who is working with other customers as well, you can learn from other people's mistakes more quickly, not just your own. If you build it internally, then you have your own team that has to go through the learning curve by themselves. And that's one approach, and that's okay, but that's not the way you move quickly. If you want to move quickly, you find someone who knows what not to do and what to try. So it's sort of like an easy choice.
Why did you choose MindTitan?
Well, I think there's, like I said, two companies don't interact with each other. I think trust is always built between people. And I think in a way, the trust was there or just appeared there quite quickly, because you guys actually, you were the first ones to listen what sort of problems we had. Not selling me the product that you had built in your garage and you thought that it's like the coolest thing ever because it's AI, and you didn't need me to adapt to your product. It worked the other way around. You listened to what our actual problems were, and then you built a solution for our actual business problems. And I think that's the key to most of the problems we have And the projects actually as well. Most of the projects have been so successful because they're built on actual business problems, and you have solved our problems. It was not us who had to sort of adapt to your product. And I think that's the key.
What advice could you give to those companies that are thinking about implementing AI or improving customer experience with these technologies?
Well, first of all, choose a project or choose a problem that is so important to you that you are willing to try whatever it takes. Choose a problem where your back's against the wall, where you just can't solve this problem any other way, because these are the best places to start. Like a few years back, it was really fine to just experiment and learn and to do proof of concept. This time has passed. The technology is so ready that just choose a problem that is so important to you, that you have people inside your organization who are willing to back it up, and then make a couple of strategical decisions of why you're doing it, and then just start the journey. And then you can, make mistakes, do it over, but the problem has to be so important to you that you're willing to try whatever it takes.
So like a strategical problem.
Definitely a strategical problem, yeah.
Can you also mention what are the upcoming projects that you're will be implementing in the near future?
One of the key ones that I'm really eager to learn the results from are actually sort of related to, it's related to IVR, like when you transfer calls to a specific team, and putting it together with the application that actually realizes what went on during this interaction, the call transcription, and getting the information labeled from that call transcription. I'm eager to find out if we can use it in some sort of competence model way, like you can evaluate the customer service agent based on actual facts, who asked what, who answered what, and how the interaction ended. This is something that has been really subjective in customer service area up until point, because you just randomly choose 2 or 3 calls, you listen to them with your manager, and then you get evaluated. But I would like to see what the results would be if we evaluate all the calls that you have taken, all the interactions you have taken, and then you can sort of you can cherry pick the topics that maybe need more improvement with you, or you can bring out as a good example one customer service agent to others, because look at the way he or she handles this type of questions. This is something that I really hope that within the next, let's say 6 months, 8 months time would be at least, alpha life, maybe beta life, alpha life, something somewhere around that. It would be fun. It would be something that could, bring us to the next level when it comes to customer service agents and the quality of customer service, or putting Annika in service of the human agents, basically. And that's what's fascinating.
Well, hopefully it goes well and we can make a new interview next year.
Then, yeah.
We'll discuss that. But that's pretty much it. Thank you, Mailiis, for talking to me today. I hope it was very interesting, and I think that our viewers will really enjoy watching it.
Thank you. Till the next time.
Thank you.